Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Izzy Cinema Escape on YouTube. I'm your host Izzy. Today's review is based off a film that was very popular in 1995, based off of one of the more iconic superheroes of all time, is from comic book and video game and animated and cinematic adaptations. Was also made as a response to the harsh criticism that Tim Burton received with his Batman Returns film. Batman Returns, as most people are well aware of, especially when it was released in 1990. I want to say it was released in 1991 or 1992. At the time, a lot of parents felt that the film wasn't advertised the way it should have been, and that it was too violent and gritty and dark and brutal for the kids at the time. And you have to remember, I do remember watching the film and how it was a lot more grittier and bloodier and just more gruesome compared to its predecessor. And as I mentioned, parents felt that it wasn't kid-friendly / family-friendly enough in order for it to really to sell toys. But it's kind of interesting that they brought that point up, because Batman Returns did have a lot of toys. It also had a lot of video game adaptations as well, as an arcade and Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. In 1995, Batman Forever was released, starring Val Kilmer, Jim Carrey, Tommy Lee Jones, Nicole Kidman, and Chris O'Donnell. It was made as a response in terms of, let's take back the Warner Brothers franchise. Warner Brothers executives hit the panic button, decided to take Batman to a different direction that was more quippy, hysterical, lighthearted, more comic bookish, campy, in terms of the more of the cerebral gothic approach that Tim Burton brought to the franchise. Anyone who has watched this film is very familiar with the introduction of the scene introduction, where you have the Batmobile rising in the Batcave, that you have Batman and Alfred having this amusing exchange of dialogue, with Alfred asking, "May I persuade you to take a sandwich with you, sir?" And Bruce Wayne / Batman responded with, "I'll get drive through." So that's when you knew that you were watching a completely different Batman film, as Batman is more quippy, talkative, and smiley compared to the Batman of the comic books. And granted, Batman has been portrayed as campy before. He has smiled in comic books and has had a lot of lame, quippy one-liners in the comic books before. So it's not exactly treading new ground. It's just when you have two films that had a much more brooding, serious Batman, now you're transitioning into a lighthearted incantation. It just makes you feel. It kind of gives you a different approach to it. Batman Forever is Batman having to involve himself into dealing with an established threat of Harvey Dent / Two-Face, played by Tommy Lee Jones, and an emergent threat in Edward Nygma / the Riddler, portrayed by Jim Carrey. Val Kilmer, as far as his Bruce Wayne / Batman depiction is concerned, he was coming off the critically acclaimed performance of Doc Holliday in Tombstone. In 1995, and before directors / studio executives were requiring actors to get in massive tip-top shape for playing superheroes, and by 1995, when you have to look at it, Val Kilmer, for all intents and purposes, could be viewed as the perfect Batman representation. He had the charming good looks, he was very chiseled, and just had a charming capability about him that was picture perfect for Bruce Wayne, and also could be viewed as picture perfect for Batman. So how does he do? What good of a job does he do with this performance? He does a good job for the material that was given to him. It's not perfect, but given what he had to work with, I don't really fault him for it, because he did a good job. Now, when you get to the Riddler, Jim Carrey's performance, and Tommy Lee Jones' performance, that's where you're entering into a new territory, because I grew up watching the 1960s Batman repeats when we lived in Germany, even in California, and even the Batman animated series. So I was more used to seeing a serious Riddler, and I love the character of the Riddler. I love the character of how he uses his intellect and hiding in his shadows, rather than attempting to combat Batman with brute force, as simply he is no match for him physically. But intellectually, he provides a significant challenge. So what I did love about the Riddler's involvement is how it really incorporated much more of a Batman detective work examination, where he's having to use his intellect in order to resolve or in order to solve certain crimes, and also to reveal the identity of the Riddler. Jim Carrey's performance is more of a tribute to Frank Gorshin of his Riddler performance in the 1960s Batman, which I can't fault him for that either. He was just given the material that he was working with. Now, Tommy Lee Jones's Harvey Dent portrayal is where a lot of people did draw the line, actually, because they felt, and even by Jim Carrey and even Tommy Lee Jones' admission, they felt that they were very competitive with one another, and they were having to match that same type of energy with each other. So you could tell it was just Tommy Lee Jones hamming it up just to ham it up. So again, I'm not going to fault him for that either. It's just I would have loved to have seen a much more serious portrayal of Harvey Dent / Two-Face in this film. However, we did get that with The Dark Knight with Aaron Eckhart, so it worked out in the end. Nicole Kidman as Dr. Chase Meridian was just, at the time, you had to remember she was simply known as Tom Cruise's wife, so she's such a typical eye candy / damsel in distress love interest of Bruce Wayne, so she really doesn't offer too much to the film. You have Chris O'Donnell, who plays Dick Grayson / Robin, much more older Robin, if you will. So if you really want to get technical, Robin should have been like 12 when he's adopted by Bruce Wayne. But either way, he did a good job for what he was given. And it's just one of those type of films that I can't necessarily harp on it too much, because I know now what I didn't know then. And it was simply made as a means to please a certain type of audience due to the overall harsh reception that the previous film received. Gotham City looks completely different compared to the Tim Burton Gotham City. It transitioning from the Gothic feel to more of the neon light, statuesque concept, where Gotham City looks a lot more futuristic, cleaner, is brighter. It's I guess the best way to put it is that it's not the Gotham City that we're accustomed to when it comes to whether it's reading the comic books or playing the video game or watching the animated series. From a cinematic perspective and a film perspective, I did enjoy Batman Forever for what it is. Is it the best Batman film in the world? Absolutely not. It's definitely not perfect. Could it have been better? Absolutely. The deleted scene / extended edition of this film provide a lot more cinematic basis to the storyline, and it's actually a lot darker and more serious compared to the theatrical version. So I hope that at some point they just continue showing the extended version with the deleted scenes, because it works so much better. It flows better and provides more of a deeper character analysis of Bruce Wayne / Batman. But from an overall perspective, I do enjoy it for what it is. It's fun, it's entertaining, the action is exciting, and it's just one of those type of guilty pleasures film where I can put it on and put it in my DVD player right now and not feel as if that not feel that basically it's a chore to watch it now. It's fun. It's still one of those. It's still an exciting, entertaining adventure that I do recommend from beginning to end. And it also has a great soundtrack too. So I mean, Seal's "Kiss from a Rose." Come on now, you can't go wrong with that song. That song is still awesome to this very day. And the U2 song "Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me," great song. The whole soundtrack is just amazing. But I have to say, my final score of Batman Forever, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, maybe, is somewhere up in there. Again, not the worst film in the world, but I do understand the complaints that it received at that time, because it was so stylistically, drastically different compared to the other films that came before it. But overall, still a fun film. I do recommend it from beginning to end. That is my review of Batman Forever. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you'll be hearing from me again. My friends, take care, be safe. Adios.